Hello there guys, it's Captain Invisible here and welcome to another episode of Challenge Accepted for Medieval 2 Total War. So it's been a while since I've done one of these. Basically, if you don't know the idea of my Challenge Accepted series, it basically revolves around taking your theories on Medieval 2 Total War and putting them to the absolute test in battles, basically. Normally I would do this online, but for this one, it's going to be hard to do this one online at all. So what we're going to do is we're just going to jump into a quick battle, into a custom battle, and set this one up for you. So we need to jump in, custom battle. We're going to do it on all periods and on very hard difficulty AI, just so you're aware that's what these settings on, just so I'm not cheating and putting on easy AI. We're going to do it on the grassy flatlands just to get an idea of balance, basically. So for this one, for sort of data protection and anonymous sake, I'm going to not reveal the player's name, but what I am going to do is just go over a brief mention of his idea for this one. The claim was that CA have made some changes and now pikes are almost as good as Rome Total War, and that now they don't start fighting with swords right after the charge. They just keep there until someone attacks them in the back. So that was the claim that pikes are almost as good as Rome Total War. Which, if you've seen Rome Total War, they are ridiculous in Rome Total War. Really are just way too maneuverable for their own good in that game. And then they claim that they stand and fight with their pikes until they get attacked in the rear. So we're going to test that out, and the factions that this player used, this was on an online battle. They said he was against someone with who used this pike formation. Actually used the pike box against him, and he could not break into it whatsoever with his infantry. So we're going to test that out. So it was a Spanish player with pikes against his Byzantine army. Let's do his army first, because he said his army was all heavy infantry with 3 units of spearmen only. So that is, and I'm going to try and create the best infantry formation I can. So that's generally for me 3 units. In fact, let's use it generally as a Latin con. It's generally 4 units of Latin con as the heavy hitters, followed by 3 units of Ranging Guard, and then the rest I generally use the dismounted Byzantine lancers. Another Ranging Guard. And some spearmen to relieve one of the upgrades. There we are. So that's as good as a Byzantine army I can get with the funds, with the 10k funds. So we're going to move on to the Spanish army, which was Spanish pikes. So it's going to be a bit awkward at this one. I do feel like I should probably put some swordsmen in, but it did just say Spanish pikes, so I guess 10k's worth of Spanish pikes. We're gonna have to spam the living hell out of pikemen. try and at least match his numbers here. There we are, so equal numbers of infantry and pikemen. Please don't bring an army like this. This is really not a representation of a pike box. This is just to show pikemen versus the Byzantine infantry in the best possible way for you. So please don't take this as an actual army. Normally I would bring a mixed contingent, but all it says is Spanish pikes on my list, so I can't really add archers because it would affect the battle, and obviously cavalry would also affect the battle too much. So yeah, Byzantine infantry versus Spanish pikemen. Let's get into this and see what madness we can unfold in this scenario. Oh crap! It's a misty battle. I mean, it won't affect the test too much because the enemy's going to be coming towards us anyway. But yeah, I'm not too fond of these mist battles. So we'll have 4 units of pikes up front. Maybe 5. Maybe 5 units of pikes up front. I'll try to get them into a single line. I'm not sure if there's an easier way to do this than just this way. So I do apologise in advance. Yes, this one was an interesting one because I have been doing a lot of stuff with pikemen, so this one's going to be quite an interesting one to look into. Definitely looking forward to seeing how these pikemen manage to sort of hold off the Byzantines. Whilst I'm setting up, my predictions for this battle are that pikemen that aren't doubled up are weak. If you've seen my other videos, you've seen how strong pikemen can be when you double them up. Well, if you don't double them up, they don't benefit from that double line. So my personal opinion on this battle is going to be that the pikes are just not going to be able to withstand these Byzantine forces. It's going to be actually quite the bloodbath, because the formation will break almost instantly, and they'll just resort to using the swords, and that generally always happens. There's not a time where I've ever not had that happen with my pikemen that weren't in a double sort of thickness formation. So just finish this off. This is about as boxy as I can do. I'm not a pike box player at all. If you it just rarely ever happens. There's a general. You can sit in the centre, and then we want to just put them all on guard mode and see what happens. So let's have a go with this. I'm not expecting much from these pikemen at all. So we'll see how they handle the Byzantines.
Pikemen!
As you can see, they do look pretty sweet though. Some of them do have quite nice upgrades, and pound for pound they're probably maybe more expensive than the Byzantine infantry. But I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure on that. But what I do know is that the Byzantines are on their way in a typical rush fashion. The AI likes to employ, just all in. See, he's not even got his Vengeance Guard up front, so this isn't even going to be the best assault from the AI. They should throw their spearmen in up front. They use the Vengeance Guard to use that charge of theirs, and use these cheaper Byzantine spearmen to dismounted Byzantine lancers to go around the flanks. But we are going to have the first assault. That's kind of engaged. The pikemen have received them, and for the most part they are holding some parts of the line. But as you can see in others, they've resorted to using the swords, and it's going to be that does them in this battle, because they cannot afford not to use their pikes. I mean, for the most part, the guys are behind are using their pikes for a bit, but then they sort of get disrupted, and you end up getting this this sort of stuff happening with the swords.
Only intervention by the Almighty Lord or a military genius can bring us victory from this disgrace.
One thing I will say though is they do look like they're holding slightly better than they normally do. As I say, pikes are notorious for just like this, dropping all of the pikes and just becoming sword units, which, you know, doesn't do them any good at all. But there are some parts in the line where they are sort of still holding. Unfortunately though, it's not all the way across the line, and you're about to see what happens here. So we'll just have to speed it up a little bit, because I don't want it to take too long. But basically the sheer weight of these Byzantine forces is going to quite quickly break into our pike box. We've already lost, well, we've only lost like 19 men to 25 of theirs, so, you know, the poor assault from the Byzantines is what's letting them down here. But as you see, places like here, so all the way across the line. I mean, these guys are being held back, but not really being killed. Just holding them back, and as I say, they kind of do bring the pikes down and then resort to using their swords. So these guys that have the room are using the pikes, but there's just not enough of them anymore. So we're just going to break the box now and just sort of attempt to sort of ad hoc defense. I'm trying not to double up on the pikes. I really don't. I don't want to show you the double up method, because the double upping is the better method. What we are going to do though is start clicking attack orders. And I mean, if you are using a Byzantine army like this, please, don't just throw your army into a pike wall. it's a complete waste of manpower. The way you want to use your infantry is to outflank and really put the pressure on elsewhere. You really don't want to get yourself stuck into a position where you are sort of just throwing your units at the enemy and hoping for the best. It really just won't work out that well for you.
Only half the enemy force remains.
And what you also have to think about is, if this was a real battle, there would be, I'd say, archer fire, there would be, there'd be a lot more going on, and if I had to break up my formation like this, there would be cavalry in my backlines as well. Similarly, there'd be cavalry in the enemy's backlines. For the most part, though, it does actually look like the pikemen have actually beaten the Byzantine infantry, which is surprising. I mean, this is why I do these tests. I obviously test to see what happens, but yeah, these Byzantine forces have actually broken against the pike walls, so that's still pretty impressive.
Only intervention by the Almighty Lord or a military genius can bring us victory from this disgrace.
Yes, the pikes are starting to weaken a little bit, but we should be able to get them to really push out these Byzantine forces. All in all, I am, as I say, pleasantly surprised that pikemen have held out this well.
The battle seems to be swinging in our favor. From such tidings does victory emerge. Praise the Almighty!
And that's it. Apparently it was a victory.
All of Christendom will be awed by the victory we have won here today.
Indeed. So yeah, an excellent representation of pikemen in this battle. As I say, I was pleasantly surprised by what happened there. Maybe a combination of the weakness of the Byzantine morale and the fact that I did start using more numbers, and I may have doubled up in some parts, but it was negligible. I think the sheer upgrades of my pikemen meant that even though they dropped the swords, they were still fighting with superior armour and weapons to the Byzantines. So yeah, a really nice representation. Before I leave you guys, though, there is one more battle I want to do that will hopefully show you how that could have gone even better. I was expecting to lose that, and I was going to use it as a representation of how pikemen could beat the Byzantines, but apparently the pikemen can beat the Byzantines anyway. So what we're going to do instead is I'm going to use this as an example to show you how the Spanish pikemen could have done it even better. So we'll just get a bunch more of these pikemen, and then a bunch more of the pike militia. And then the same, let's try and get the same army, let's do a fair representation. jumps through the spearmen. Anyway, I don't think that's the same army. I think I've got too many infantry units there. But you know, it'll show this even better than the previous one. So we shall jump straight into the battle. Okay, it's a bit clearer this day, which is probably for the best. So, what I would like to do with my pikemen is use them just completely aggressively. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, what I'm doing here is I'm doubling up on my pikes. Behind there. Here we are. And what this does, I'll show you the strategy behind it. Okay, so what this does is, this creates a big blob of pikemen basically. So we've got just all these pikes. But what this really achieves is, just need these guys in front a little bit. What this does though is it creates a very interesting scenario. So that's a bit too far. With pikes, as you saw in the battle, they kind of have a tendency to drop their pikes whenever they get attacked, and that happens almost all the time. It's almost unavoidable. But what this does is this gives the holding power that you saw in the previous battle over on this flank, the holding power of these pikes with the pushing power of these ones. And pikemen are no slouches at attacking. The attack speed and their sort of 14 melee attack really gives them a really powerful edge against enemy infantry. The downside to them is that they can't really utilise that power due to being bulked. But what this should hopefully do is this should stop that from happening, and should really help utilise both strengths of the pikemen. So the AI, being as it is just going to chuck its army straight at our lines. A real player would not do that, but you know, there's nothing I can do about the AI. Maybe, I mean, I do have battles where I do use the double line formation against real players in online battles, but it can't be helped in terms of these custom battles. So I'll have to apologise for the AI's stupidity. So the AI is going to rush in, and he's going to get caught by the pike militia in defensive formation, and then almost immediately the tercio pikemen are going to start pushing forward into the Avenging Guard. And you can see the Avenging Guard are currently dying, and there's already wavering. That's due to the sheer losses of the forces due to these tercio pikemen. And as you can see, relatively, all the pikes are sort of holding the ground except for these guys.
Guard this area.
Relatively speaking, we've got some really nice holding down here. There's like a little gap here between the formations, and the place where the pikemen are pushed through too much, they're going to end up using the swords. But putting them in guard mode is usually a good way to solve that. And these guys have just turned around completely. So this is the best formation in my opinion for using pikes. You can already see there's quite a lot of braking. And then whenever the formation pushes up too far, you can simply put them on guard mode to stop them from pushing too far, and then use the back line to push in. Because pikemen are probably the best unit for pushing.
Only half the enemy force remains.
This side's completely gone. Let's see if I can...
Pikemen, unit, guard.
Yeah, I can't quite find one, but there's something that I like to call the Goldilocks zone. A bit like this. It's a space between the enemy infantry and the pikemen that the pikes can reach into and kill the enemy infantry without the enemy infantry being able to engage the pikes and mess up their formation. As I say, it's like a Goldilocks zone. It's kind of the point where pikes really do hit home really well. Because, as you see, the enemy infantry can't attack them, but the pikemen can start prodding and poking at the enemy infantry. And it's that space you need, because if the enemy infantry gets into your pikemen, as like here, you're going to suffer heavy losses.
The enemy general has no honor. He flees the field of battle and abandons his men.
I think that'll be about it. There's just these other units here that are still trying to come forward.
Praise the
There we are.
Almighty! Our enemy has lost. By the Lord above, our foe has been much humbled. Let all who remember this day remember it as the day of our most glorious victory.
Indeed. So, as you can see, the results are slightly better than they were on the previous battle. I'm still surprised that I won the last battle. I could put it down to the AI, but to be honest, I think pikemen do well if the enemy just throws themselves at the pikemen. It's when the enemy starts trying to flank and use other units to attack the pikemen that you really suffer. But I hope this was a good representation of how you can really use pikemen aggressively, and you don't have to hold into a formation. I mean, you can kind of see that there's still a lot of pikemen left, and you saw the ability of them just to push through formations and really rout the Byzantine army. The Byzantines aren't that good with morale. They do suffer quite a bit, but in terms of actually beating pikemen, I really did think the Byzantines would be able to beat them before their morale gave up. But yeah, I hope that was a good representation of them. I do have other videos on pikemen and this double line formation if you want to check those out. I have an entire Pikes Tactics series out on my channel, so please do check those out. But thank you very much for the player that sent this in. As I say, I don't want to reveal who they are, just for I say anonymous circumstances. If they are happy for me to reveal who they are, then that's fine. You know, they can do that in the comment section, or I'll add it to the video description. But as I say, I don't want to start pointing out people's names, because it almost feels like naming and shaming if the theory fails, and I don't want to be that kind of person. So but yeah, really great representation of pikemen here, and as I say, I've got other videos on pikemen if you want to check those out. So thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you all in the next video.